Let's hear it for our upcoming panel. And today, our panel of seasoned founders and investors will share their experiences, the trade-offs, challenges, and rewards of each approach, and the approaches being bootstrapped or seeking funding. Our first panelist is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Restroworks, a leading cloud-first technology platform for restaurants. May I now invite and welcome Ashish Tulsian, co-founder and CEO of Restroworks. I really will request all the delegates to stay seated. Our next panelist is somebody who believes in revolutionizing Bharat by leveraging technology to connect communities, bridge insurance gaps, and enhance financial security for all. May I invite Ankit Agrawal, CEO and co-founder of Insurance Dekho. Our third panelist, a seasoned entrepreneur, digital strategy consultant, and venture builder, is also an angel investor and offshore outsourcing expert. Let's welcome somebody who actually doesn't need an introduction, Mr. Abhishek Rungta, founder and CEO of Indus Technologies. And to moderate this very elite panel, we have Jivraj Singh Sachar. He believes in adding value by democratizing the startup ecosystem of the country by running a podcast and an angel syndicate. Founder and general partner, Indian Silicon Valley Capital, Jivraj Singh Sachar.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, and super delighted to be doing this, moderating a panel of incredible founders here. It's an absolute honor to have the best seat in the room to do this. As we get started, I'd request everybody to just get a bit settled so that we have a more active room. And I also like to do a quick couple of polls so that we know the room a bit, right? So if you're in the age of 30 to 40, can you raise your hand? Okay, 20 to 30, above 40. Okay, if you're a business owner, can you raise your hand? Okay, if you're an investor, can you raise your hand? Okay, if you're an operator in startups, not a founder, but working in startups for a while. Okay, so we're in a room of mostly business owners, above 40. That's the 70%, 80% of our crowd, right? Knowing that, we'll start the panel, right? And I'll quickly, before I sort of like get to each of you, do quick introduction so that the room knows what everybody here has done. We want to talk about funding versus bootstrap, right? So raising external capital versus bootstrapping your own business. How many people here know about Abhishek Rungta? Awesome. So I won't spend too much time, apart from the fact that personally I've gotten a chance to learn a lot from him, and I really respect a lot of his learnings, as I'm sure a lot of people in the room have benefited from. He's, of course, his life has been an embodiment of bootstrapping a business, building it successfully, and seeing the fruits of it. Abhishek, in your experience, and especially considering the environment has changed now, if you were talking to a founder in the room, how many people here want to build a business at some point in time in the future? Okay, fewer, but in general, if you were talking to founders in the room, what would you tell them considering today's environment with your experience of having bootstrapped a company for 25 years and more?
I mean, in my opinion, of course, I will always say that you should definitely bootstrap. Even if the business needs funding, I think the first few years it should be bootstrapped, and then you should see if you want to raise money or not.
Got it. Also, in the current environment of AI, right? I think it's an overabused word, but largely what's also happening is you don't need as many engineers to start. You don't need as much sort of, let's say, GTM bandwidth to start, right? Because of whatever's happening in the ecosystem. Do you think that changes how you look at raising if you're building a software company?
No, I mean, I have never raised when this whole AI madness was not there, and I will not raise even when the AI madness is there. So I think it is irrespective of that. I think businesses, the bootstrapping, the objective of bootstrapping is, to keep your sanity, control, and freedom. So I would always say that you should bootstrap. But of course, at a later stage, if your business needs funding desperately, you may have to change your gears.
Got it. I'll get to Ashish now. How many here know of Ashish Tulsian? Awesome. How many here go to restaurants? Okay, so if you've gone to a restaurant, you've been impacted by his work, right? He runs a company called Restroworks, which was previously called Pausist. It's a restaurant SaaS company. Guess how many countries he sells to? Just any number will do, actually. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus. It's a global company in the truest sense of it. Ashish, in your opinion, you're also an avid investor. By the way, the common denominator across the three of them is also they invest very actively in young founders and experienced ones. In your opinion, Ashish, the same question, but what have you seen evolve in your 10, 12 years journey in terms of how software companies get built? Sometimes you need the money to hire, and that money is beyond what you can perhaps put into the business. How do you then work about bootstrapping the business or raising capital? What is the trade-off?
I think one is that I don't really advocate bootstrapping as some sort of a badge of honor.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Money is a resource. Like you need time to build a startup. You leave your job, you leave something that you're doing because you need time. Similarly, when you need money, you need money. Money has color. Anybody who says money doesn't have color is the problem. That means, what is the source of your capital? It can be debt, it can be your family, it can be your savings, it can be a VC, it can be an angel investor. You can raise and then decide to continue with profits. You can start with profits, continue to bootstrap and maybe raise later. My view is that I don't get into this debate of bootstrap versus funded. I think we continue to bootstrap for very organic evolutionary reasons. For example, सच ये है कि हर साल 2 साल बाद हमें भी लगता है कि अरे ले लेते हैं पैसे and कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है we are suffocating the opportunity. There are well-wishers who will come and tell me, अरे you're not thinking big enough, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's right. But then we go out. We have actually run the process as well, where we went out, had a chat with VCs, and then of course realized what is it that they want us to do. And it was not about good and bad. It was not what we wanted to do. And we realized that, okay, if we sign up for this money and we don't end up doing exactly what this person wants us to do, it is going to be a disservice to both the money and the opportunity. And then we said, okay, back to customer money, back to profits, and let's plow again. I think that is literally the journey. ऐसे करते करते 13 साल हो गए हैं. तो अभी मालूम नहीं है कि आगे क्या होगा. But I believe what stage you are in, and at that point, what kind of capital do you need, and what is the source you can have, you should take your decision basis that.
Got it. No, that's super helpful. So we've learned ki freedom, knowing what you want from the capital, and then source of capital, right? There's color of capital, and that matters. Now coming to Ankit. How many people here know of Ankit's work? How many people here have an insurance policy? Okay, so you're impacted by his work either way, right? Ankit runs one of the most successful companies in the country called Insurance Dekho. Guess how much capital Ankit has raised over a period of time? For 2 people on the panel who have not raised capital or very little, how much, any shouts will do, any number. Okay, less than $10 million. Give me a shout. Less than $100 million. Less than $200 million. Less than $300 million. So Ankit says about 300 million over his lifespan. Ankit?
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years. So talk to us about how that's been. Why does your nature of business require capital? And when it does, how do you go about choosing what kind of capital, what kind of partners? How do you go about that journey?
So firstly, it's a privilege to speak sitting next to Abhishek, who I call the OG of angel investing in the country and bootstrapping in the country. So thank you for having me on the panel with him. I firmly echo what Abhishek says that जब आप अपनी कंपनी बना रहे होते हो तो शुरू के कुछ साल आपको कैपिटल नहीं रेज करना चाहिए बिकॉज हैविंग कैपिटल जस्ट स्पॉइल्स यू. I did not raise a single rupee externally for the first 7 years of my existence. I started my company on 26th October 2015. Obviously, I was lucky to be a part of a larger group, but there also I used to get drip capital. कि भाई इतना ही रुपये है और इतने ही रुपये में तुमको धंधा बनाना है. So for the first 7 years of my existence, while people around me were raising copious amounts of capital, burning copious amounts of capital, and shutting down their companies, I and my core team was busy with our heads down executing. मेरा मानना है कि जब पैसे कम होते हैं तो आप इनोवेट करते हो, राइट? मतलब तब आप ये सोचते हो कि मैं सबसे सस्ते ऑफिस को कहाँ से लूँ, सबसे अच्छा टैलेंट को कैसे मैं समझा के अपने पास रखूँ. आप ये नहीं सोचते हो कि मैं बिजनेस क्लास ट्रैवल करूँ, आप ये सोचते हो मैं इकोनॉमी क्लास सबसे सस्ती फ्लाइट कैसे लूँ. एंड आई थिंक ऑल दीज थिंग्स मैटर व्हेन यू आर इन अ बिजनेस एंड व्हेन यू आर बिल्डिंग योर ओन कंपनी. एक लाला जी जैसे अपने धंधे के बारे में सोचते हैं वैसे आप सोचते हो, आप ये नहीं सोचते मैं किसी और के पैसे पे कंपनी चला रहा हूँ. सेकेंड, वेन एवर यू रेज कैपिटल, आई थिंक अगर आपका धंधा अच्छा है, आपका अच्छा व्यापार बना रहे हो तो यू विल फाइंड लॉट्स ऑफ पीपल who will want to come work with you, partner with you. You should first align the vision. When I was raising my Series A, I had 15 term sheets. I chose to take money only from 3 people, and I chose to take money from those 3 people जिनका vision और mission मेरे से aligned था, right? Second, when you take money, जैसे अभी भाई ने बोला कि color of money होता है ना, color of money is very very important. आप पैसा उस व्यक्ति से लो जो आपको भी समझ सकता है और आपके धंधे को भी समझ सकता है, बिकॉज धंधा कभी भी वन वे ट्रैफिक नहीं होता है. यू नो, ऑल ऑफ यू सिटिंग हियर आर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, सक्सेसफुल प्रोफेशनल्स, देयर आर लॉट्स ऑफ अप्स एंड डाउन्स. मतलब मेरा बिजनेस ठीक चल रहा था, अचानक से डीमोनेटाइजेशन आ गया, फिर बिजनेस ठीक से चलना स्टार्ट हुआ, अचानक से कोविड आ गया. कोई घर से बाहर ही नहीं निकल रहा है तो कोई गाड़ी का इंश्योरेंस क्यों कराएगा? यू हैव टू पिवट फ्रॉम ऑल ऑफ अ सडन डूइंग 100 crore रेवेन्यू एवरी ईयर, you're down to 10 crore rupee of revenue every year, right? Then something else happened, then something else happens, right? So if you have a partner who understands you, he will be with you. Third and the most important piece I believe is investor का काम है पैसा देना, investor का काम कंपनी चलाना नहीं. I myself am an angel investor. I put money in companies, but I don't go out and run those companies because I do not have the capability to run those companies, right? So take money from an investor who wants to be an investor. Never take money from an investor who wants to be an operator, because आपका व्यापार है, आपको मालूम आप कैसे चला सकते हो.
Super. Thank you so much, Ankit, for sharing. I think what you've built and the way you've gone about it is an inspiration for many in the room, and that helps us with a lot of insights. Now we'll come to maybe upsides and downsides of both sort of strategies, right? And maybe this is a very good debate to have, because I was just telling Ashish before this that, you know, there's somebody who's built a company bootstrap successfully, somebody who's raised and built it, somebody who's in the middle and built it successfully, right? So you can give a neutral perspective, but we'll try to debate so that we get a rounded opinion on both the things, right? My job is to mediate. One thing that people often wonder when companies raise, they have the benefit of burning capital, right? And become loss making for a short span of time, right? So there is this very common मतलब tweet अभी चल रहा है कि हल्दीराम को $10 billion 60-70 साल लगे, Zomato को वही चीज़ करने में कुछ 15 साल लगे, right? Because Zomato was started in 2008-9. Can you talk about like this lens, right? So as a bootstrap company, you work on cash flows, which means आप loss नहीं ले सकते, loss आपके pocket से आएगा. How do you manage cash flows from a bootstrap lens, because you don't have the ability to sort of burn, and let's say competition के पास वो advantage है, और अगर आपने raise किया है, like in Ankit's case, you have the benefit of gaining market share by burning money in the intermediary and then becoming profitable later. How do you manage these two things?
Yeah, I don't know how do you manage them, but I can share it from an anecdotal perspective. I think as a bootstrapper, of course you are going to take more time for the same thing, but I think the false equivalency, and that is why there is so much chase for the capital in the world, is people actually believe, or rather, you know, all the stories in the media makes us to believe that throwing money would have actually saved time. That is also not true. For example, we are wherever we are today, it took us 13 years. But if I had a ton of capital, I can tell you that I might have shrunk this journey not more than 3 years, guaranteed. I would have still taken 10 years, to be where I am if I wanted to be here with the right health that I am with today. Bootstrapping puts a very interesting pressure on 2-3 things which are fundamentals of the business. One, when you are bootstrapping, you don't have customer acquisition cost to burn. That means when I think about pricing my product, I want to recover my CAC as soon as possible, as soon as I sign up a customer. That means signing up the wrong customer is not a choice. 2, losing a customer is absolutely not a choice because I cannot lose that money. That puts great pressure for us to, 1, only promise what we can deliver, make sure that we deliver that very, very well. And because you also want to retain the customer, you really want your lifetime value of the customer high, you want to actually deliver more than what you are taking from the table. And these constraints remain absolutely constant throughout the journey. They are auto-correcting. There are times when founder can be बदतमीज कि अरे बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है अभी, discount कर देते हैं इसको, हमारे पास customers आते हैं. I actually can tell you, customers have become, and we operate in restaurant industry, thanks to all the Shark Tanks and all the VC news. There is a legit customer who came to us and said, gave a counter offer for 15% of what we quoted. So I met him in a conference and I was like, मेरे को मालूम चला कि हमने आपको 2 करोड़ का कोट भेजा, आपने 30 लाख का काउंटर ऑफर दिया. एक क्वेश्चन है, क्यों? तो उन्होंने बोला कि देखिए साहब, आप तो वीसी से पैसा ले लेंगे, आप हमारे से क्यों ले रहे हैं? मैंने बोला ये आइडिया आपको भी आ गया है? तो ही सेड, मैंने बोला बट हम बूटस्ट्रैप्ड हैं. बोला तो आप गलती कर रहे हैं, आपको वीसी से पैसा लेना चाहिए, हमें तो डिस्काउंट दीजिए. And that day I came out of the room and I was like, oh my God, world is getting corrupt reverse. अभी तक फाउंडर बोल रहा था कि मेरे पास पैसा है, मैं तेरे को डिस्काउंट दूंगा. अभी कस्टमर बोल रहा है कि तू तो उधर से ले लियो, मुझे डिस्काउंट दे दे. I think that's where most of whenever I see funded startups going bad, it is not because of funding. It is because, as Ankit said, as soon as you don't perceive the pressure on time, on your acquisition cost, on your retention of customer, and hence quality of product or service, that's where you go down. Bootstrapping makes this absolutely compulsorily beautiful, but takes a lot of time.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing, Ashish. Yes, we should keep the applause coming in because the speakers will also know that you guys listen to, and we'll have an advantage here. Ankit, I'd love for you to also focus on all the good reasons why money is important, right? Because for all the bad reasons, money being thrown at problems, etc., which can be a problem on the fundraising side, the good reasons are that you get to gain market share, you get to compete with competition, you can use that money in a way that you hire good talent, etc., right? What are the advantages of having a lot of capital that you externally raise, and how do you then utilize in a good way, like you have?
So let me first ask the audience, is having money a good problem to have or a bad problem to have? कोई बोलेगा क्या पैसा होना bad problem है? Anybody in the audience? Right? So,
एक बार जब हमारे पास पैसा होगा तो बता सकता हूँ ये बात.
हाँ तो that's it, right? पैसा सबको चाहिए होता है. So I don't think having money can ever be a bad problem to have, right? I think the way you manage money, right, can be good or bad. It's not about having money being a bad problem. So I think that's something I want to clarify. First, before I go there, Jivraj, I think the reason why people feel ki funded startups burn money X, Y, Z, because we as a country have always glorified the wrong things in life, right? We will glorify मेरे पड़ोसी का लड़का X IT में rank 1 आया है, but we will never glorify अगर सामने आपके किसी और पड़ोसी का लड़का स्पोर्ट्स में बहुत अच्छा कर रहा है, राइट? Similarly, when I was in Silicon Valley, they don't care two hoots whether you've raised $100 million or whether you've raised $500 million or whether you're unicorn or decacon. आप पेपर खोल के देख लो, मतलब Facebook kept raising round after round, but when you opened up a Wall Street Journal the next day, it would never have that Facebook raised $200 million or $500 million at X valuation. right? So I think all this noise around valuation, money, cash burn, etc., is because we as a country do not focus on the right metric, right? So that is one. I think जब आपके पास पैसा होता है, I think money gives you freedom. Simple. I think the biggest advantage of money is that it gives you freedom and it gives you peace of mind. Today, if I have 2,000 crores in my bank account, right, I'm not worried whether a COVID is going to come or whether, you know, there's a World War III or Trump does something, anything. I don't care. I have enough and more money to run my ship for the next 3 to 4 years, right? So it gives you mental peace, freedom. Second, it allows you the freedom to experiment. Please trust me that AI is going to change the way all of us look at businesses. I am not riding the AI bandwagon. I'm actually using it. I and Jivraj were just talking about some company. Just 5 minutes back, we're talking about some company which both I and Jivraj are trying to mentor. Guys, AI is mind-boggling. It is going to change the way we all look at businesses. I completely agree with what Rohit said, that please go and travel to Bangalore, Gurgaon, at least 4 or 5 times a year to understand what is happening, right? Why am I laying stress on this? Because पैसा नहीं होता तो मैं और तू उस कंपनी के बैठ के बात नहीं कर रहे होते, right? Third, it allows you to hire the best in class talent. My younger sister is sitting in the audience right now, so I was just chatting with her. She's running a typical bootstrapped company. They keep winning contracts after contract, but for every contract, she has to go for business development, she has to go for implementation, and she's the one who goes and solves any queries from the consumer, right? So she's not able to scale her business beyond a point. At this way, she can add 5, 7, 10 clients a year. But if she has money and she is able to hire 10 grade A account managers whose only job in life is, after she acquires the clients, they just have to implement, service, retain. She can grow her business 10x. Fourth and most important thing is, see, in today's time and world, the Gen Z crowd is a very, very different crowd, right? They are not like what I was or what my parents were. When they want to work in an organization, they want to see what impact they are going to create and what impact the organization is going to create. And they also want to see who are the people backing them. So if you have investors on your cap table or you've raised a lot of money, it just, it's a corollary to my third point, right? It just allows you to hire and retain better quality talent, right? So just to summarize, I think it's peace of mind, freedom, ability to experiment, and talent. I think these 3-4 things are very, very important for a founder.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Ankit. I think that is extremely well summarized in terms of what the benefits of raising capital are. I'll just quickly give a 30-second anecdote for what Ankit mentioned in the middle. How many people here know of the company Airbnb? Awesome. I was expecting a full room. Airbnb, over its lifetime across 14 years, raised about $6 billion and sort of burnt that money. $6 billion is almost like 40,000 crores and more, right? In the first year of operations of having gone public, they were $2 billion free cash flow positive. In the next year, they were $4 billion free cash flow positive, which means they've now returned all of the capital that they raised. And now anything, this year they're going to be around $5-6 billion in FCF, is all going to be positive. So for us to understand that when companies raise money over a period of time, burn that, they also end up returning that kind of capital in the outlier successes that exist, right? So fascinating case study to sort of go about.
If you just allow me 10
Please.
seconds, right? I think something which I missed out is when you're creating a market, you need capital to create a market. Please understand, today all of us talk about Swiggy and Zomato. I'll share something in 2015. So I was working with a startup in Bangalore. And I was in the middle of not liking what I was doing, wanting to do something else. That's when I'd met Sri Harsha, who's the founder of Swiggy. He gave me an offer. He said, why don't you come and join us? At that time, he was giving me stocks worth about 2-3 crores, which would have been worth roughly about 200 crores if I had joined them at that point of time. I didn't join them because when I came to Calcutta and I told my mom, I want to join Swiggy. मैं Swiggy join कर रहा हूँ. She's like, मेरा बेटा बाइक पे जाके खाना डिलीवर करेगा. That's what my mother said, right? But just imagine, would Swiggy have been able to create what Swiggy has done if they did not have $3-4 billion? No, they could not have created a market, right? Today, if I ask all of you in the room, how many of you have a Swiggy app or how many of you have a Swiggy Instamart app or a Zepto app? All of you will have it, right? Because now it's become a part of your lifestyle. जब आप एक नई कैटेगरी क्रिएट करते हो, जब आप लोगों की आदत बदलते हो, तो आपको पैसे चाहिए, अदरवाइज आप मार्केट क्रिएट ही नहीं कर सकते.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for mentioning, Ankit. In fact, one of my other questions will be कि कौन सी टाइप की कंपनीज को पैसे रेस करने चाहिए या नहीं रेस करने चाहिए. But I'll come to Abhishek now. Abhishek, for all the reasons that Ankit mentioned, right, that the downside of not being able to raise money is you can't hire as efficiently perhaps, or hire the right talent, right? You have to work with constraints in terms of budget. You have to manage cash flow. You have to be at the center of things. In your journey, how have you gone about doing all of the things that are against raising capital yet being able to do it efficiently? आपने क्या observe किया?
नहीं, I think you can end up doing all these things. It just will take more time. Right? And I think at times when you spend more time, you learn more. Again, there is no right or wrong way of building the business. It can be bootstrapped, it can be funded. It's all about what are your priorities as an individual, right? And what kind of freedom you want. So Ankit also mentioned about freedom to experiment, right? So definitely you get freedom to experiment and fail faster. So you can do 5 experiments at the same time, or you can do, hire more different types of people and see what clicks and what works for you. Right? In Bootstrapped, I think your number of experiments is less. So that is the one problem on the freedom side. But if you look at freedom on the other perspective altogether, right? On one side, you have to answer the investor. And he may also dictate terms, or he may also try to intervene. I mean, I have heard horror stories after horror stories of founders who have been literally hounded by investors. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but yes, and they don't do it for purpose, like they are not against you. It's their job, because they have also taken money from someone else and they have to return that money. So the whole objectivity of the business becomes money and valuation. And therefore you also lose freedom there. So on one side you are getting freedom, on the other side you are losing freedom. Right? Similarly, when you are bootstrapped, obviously you lose a little bit of a freedom कि आज सारे experiments हम नहीं कर सकते हैं, और हमारे को बहुत सोच समझ के experiment करना होगा, because if I get it wrong, right, it will be long time when again I can accumulate that amount of money for the next experiment, right? But दूसरी freedom है कि how do I want to run the business, how do I want to build the business, वो freedom हमारे पास है. If I don't want to work really very hard for a couple of years because there is some other, priorities in my life, I can lie low. So I mean, for example, when my daughter was born, I just stopped traveling abroad for 3 years, because that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to stay and enjoy, right? And I wanted to make the company move slower. It's okay. So I think it's about what is your priority and how do you define freedom. So for me, entrepreneurship is all about freedom, right? I mean, we all have abilities to create things. We can create things by working in Google. We can create things by starting our own company and taking funding. We can still create things by starting our own company without taking a single penny from anyone, right? And all the 3 options have got, as I said, different levels of freedom and different contexts. It is very important for us to understand that what do I want? So I think there is no one answer for all. Someone would be extremely happy doing the first thing, which I think we have the likes of Satya Nadella and these amazing people, okay, and they have done amazing work, working in some way. They have never been entrepreneurs, right? I mean, we possibly, you would not discount any of these guys like Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella because they are not entrepreneurs, right? I mean, they are doing entrepreneurial work. That's very important. That's about creation. And they also have freedom today of what they want to do, right? So I think it's very contextual. I don't think you can make it wear the same cloth across the board. I think you need to contextualize and you need to understand what freedom means to you. I think the bottom line is freedom to do things differently, and what allows you to do what you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Abhishek.
One thing that I'll add to that, and I think, both Ankit and Abhishek, I agree with both kinds of freedom. But, one thing that I'll tell all the entrepreneurs in the room, and this is something that I, really, feel deeply about. I think this entire, bootstrapping versus funded versus, trying to chase that unicorn or a decacon, I find it a little amusing. And, this is also from my personal experience, because I feel that the numbness around money on paper is so much कि हिंदुस्तान में जिसने 2 करोड़ रुपए फ्री कैश अपने अकाउंट में नहीं देखा है, वो $10 मिलियन के एग्जिट को छोटा बता रहा है. वो कह रहा है कि ये तो छोटी कंपनी थी. मतलब कितने की थी? बोला $10 मिलियन की सेल हुई है. आई एम लाइक आपके बैंक में कितने पैसे हैं? बोला नहीं वो इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. बोला ये कैसे नहीं है इंपॉर्टेंट यार. I think as an entrepreneur, it is very, very important that you cannot pour from an empty cup. We all talk about Silicon Valley, we all talk about geographies which are much more advanced. But if you see the prosperity from which they are coming, so many things are natural to them. For example, I was having a debate with this guy, long back. I was like, Instagram 2010 mein it was born. And how many of you know why Instagram was born? The early use case was filters. There was no sharing, there was no social, as in there was sharing, but it was filters, right? So people used to take a bad picture, put filters, by swipe, it used to become a professionally, edited picture. I told somebody, I said, Instagram हिंदुस्तान में बन ही नहीं सकता था. तो उसने बोला अरे हिंदुस्तान बहुत बढ़िया हमारे इंजीनियर. तो मैंने बोला कि नहीं मैं बता रहा हूँ we could not have invented it. He said, why are you saying that so confidently? I said because 2010 में अमेरिकन बच्चे की प्रॉब्लम थी कि फोटो प्रोफेशनल नहीं है. इंडियन बच्चे की प्रॉब्लम थी कैमरा नहीं है. तो जब मेरे पास कैमरा ही नहीं होगा तो प्रोफेशनल फोटो के बारे में कौन सोचेगा? पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, राइट? सो एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर स्पेशली इन इंडिया when you are trying to build a life, it is very, very important that whether you choose a bootstrapped way, whether you choose the funded way, but if you are not making sure that you are prosperous and happy in the process, it is also a bad idea. You cannot make your customers, your employees, your ecosystem happy if you are continuously struggling, for a paper number for a very, very long time. Whether you bootstrap, whether you get funded, it doesn't matter.
Can I add something to this? So I think, another very important word that we need to also understand here is sustainability, right? So you can create a business which goes sky high for 6 months, 2 years, maybe 5 years, and then comes down and does not leave any impact, right? For me, it's as good as you have not built anything. Rather than if you have built something which continues to be there, which keeps creating value, not just for the customer, but also for the other stakeholders, society and yourself. That, in my opinion, is a far more good business to build. So at times, too much of funding ends up building a business which is not sustainable. Because you develop a blind spot. The blind spot is about, okay, धंधा तो चल रहा है, बन रहा है, valuation तो बन रही है. But they forget at times that की value नहीं बन रही है for all the stakeholders. Until any business creates value for all stakeholders, right, it cannot survive. It has to create value for everybody. Be it the founder. If there are investors, it has to be for investors. If there are consumers, obviously consumers, and everyone around you, right? So, and that is where my problem with a lot of hyper-funded companies is, because they lose the track of sustainability totally.
Got it. Oh, awesome. I think what I'm taking back is sustainability, freedom, and time. ये 2-3 important factors हैं जो आपको you will have to evaluate for yourself how you want to make peace or not, and then take a decision on how you want to raise capital, whether you want to raise capital if it's needed. As we close down, and since we've covered the funding bootstrapped aspect, I think largely we have a room full of business owners. Let's try to give them something actionable to take back, right? So from your journeys, I'll keep this an open question for each one of you. If you had to solve for bootstrap startups and give them learnings from your journey, that could be either in talent hiring, it could be in growth, it could be in cash flow management, any of these. And from the funding side as well, what are 1 or 2 things that you have gotten right or wrong in your journey that people in the room can learn from? If we can leave with that, I think that'll be really actionable in the last 10 minutes. Open to any of you, and we can go one by one to answer this question.
So I think second part, because on this stage I've been made the villain, given that I've raised capital.
Everybody's aspiring to be there, by the way.
Ankit, नहीं, just because Ankit ने 300 million raise किया, ऐसे hate नहीं करेंगे. Ankit, whenever you feel bad about it, you can just transfer some money to me and Abhishek. अगर आपको लगता है हम बिकाऊ हैं, आप रेट बोलिए.
प्राइवेट में बात करते हैं. बट आई थिंक एक चीज़ मैं सब आप लोग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स हैं, शायद मैं आप लोगों से सीखूंगा, मैं सिखाने की आई डोंट थिंक आई एम इन दैट पोजीशन. हर आइडिया का ना लाइफ में एक टाइम होता है, राइट? आफ्टर अ टाइम दैट आइडिया गोज टेल. देर आर कोई भी ऐसा आइडिया नहीं है जो परमानेंट होता है, राइट? ऑल आइडियाज, ऑल सेक्टर्स इवॉल्व. If you ask me, I believe that by delaying raising of capital by 7 years, I lost out the opportunity to build a big B2C brand. I could have built out a big B2C brand, and today with AI coming in, I could have layered it with AI and I could have actually created a larger impact than what I'm doing today, right? Why am I saying this to you guys, right? A lot of times देखिए कोई भी ना struggle glorification के लिए use नहीं करना चाहिए. Nobody cares two hoots if you failed in life. The reason why all of you are sitting here wasting 45 minutes of your life because you want to listen to 3 or 4 people who have apparently made it big in life or are going to make it big in life. Let's be very honest, है ना? मतलब आज हम बोल देते हैं यहाँ रतन टाटा आ रहे हैं तो हम चारों भी लाइन में खड़े हो जाते हैं कि भाई मतलब रतन टाटा जी आएंगे, या मतलब रोहित था तो पूरा हॉल फुल था, या श्रीहर्ष आएगा तो पूरा हॉल. एवरीबडी लाइक्स टू बी सराउंडेड बाय सक्सेसफुल पीपल एंड एवरीबडी वांट्स टू लिसन टू सक्सेसफुल पीपल, राइट? सो प्लीज़ do not glorify struggles. Is struggle important? Yes. Is the journey important? Yes. But everything is important and it makes sense only if you reach to a successful conclusion in life. Else किसी चीज़ की कोई value नहीं होती है, right? मतलब we all can glorify. So funding important होता है. Please raise capital for your businesses, right? If you feel you want to accelerate the path to building something big, or you can get some know-how in the form of JV or in the form of people coming and contributing, right? I think the most important thing for me, which Jivraj said in this entire conversation, was about team building when he asked, right? कि जब आप initial stage में अपनी team बनाते हो, जब आपके पास पैसे नहीं होते हैं, या बाद में जब आप team बनाते हो तो क्या देखते हो? I think team building is the most important piece, right? I have 2 of my colleagues sitting here. I've called them. One of those colleagues, instantly had become upset 3 weeks ago, and he called me, sir, আমার কি একটা অফার পেয়ে গেছি, আমি যাব. तो ऐसे पहले तो गुड़गांव में से बात करने के लिए, फिर मैं तेरे को बोलता हूँ तू जाएगा नहीं जाएगा. He couldn't say no to me. मतलब he's been with me for 4 years. When my father passed away, he was the one who was standing by me in the hospital. उसके घर पे कुछ हुआ, I was there with him. The reason why I'm saying this is, जब आप initial 10, 50, 100 लोगों की टीम बनाते हो, right? Each of those team members is like your family. You have to know everything about that individual. That individual has to know everything about you. Second, when you hire for grit, hire for the ability to innovate and hire for talent. मतलब डिग्री हो नहीं हो कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता. मतलब मैं कौन सा कोई IITM गया हूँ, मतलब CA भी 3 बार मैं पास किया था. सेंट जेवियर्स कॉलेज में जब जाके बहुत बार फादर साहब का पाँव पकड़ा था, तब फादर ने मेरे को एडमिशन दिया था. मतलब पहले तो मैं, हमारे समय भवानीपुर कॉलेज को हम भग्गू बोलते थे, मैं भग्गू में था, राइट? तो आई थिंक आई जस्ट हैड द एबिलिटी टू इनोवेट, गो क्रिएट एन अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर मी वेर एवर इट वॉज, राइट? तो हायर व्हेन यू आर सेटिंग अप योर कंपनी, जो पहले 50-100 लोगों को आप हायर कर रहे होते हो, हसलर्स को हायर करो जिनमें जिगर हो, जिनमें जज्बा हो, राइट? एंड अगेन आई विल से, at the cost of both these gentlemen beating, please, there is nothing wrong in raising capital. Please go out and raise capital, right? कोई इन्वेस्टर डेमन नहीं होता है. जैसे आप नौकरी कर रहे हो, आप अपना धंधा बना रहे हो, वो भी धंधा कर रहा है ना यार, उसको भी पैसा रिटर्न करना है. आप नहीं करोगे काम तो आपके अंदर घुसेगा. अभी आप बाइजू ने $10 बिलियन रेस कर लिया, उसमें से $4 बिलियन से उसने दुबई में अपना घर खरीद लिया, मेसी को स्पॉन्सर बना दिया, तो कोई इन्वेस्टर उसके पीछे क्यों नहीं पड़ेगा? पड़ेगा ना यार, उसको भी तो अपने LP को जवाब देना है. बट वहीं पे दीपेंद्र ने लोगों का पैसा वापस किया, श्रीहर्षा ने लोगों का पैसा वापस किया, विजय भाई ने लोगों का पैसा वापस किया, यशीश ने लोगों का पैसा वापस किया. सब इन चारों को गॉड बोलते हैं, राइट? व्हेन यू टेक मनी, यू ऐड ऑन अ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑन योर सेल्फ, एंड व्हेन यू टेक ऑन रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, यू हैव टू लिव ऑन दैट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, राइट? मैं कैलकाटा से हूँ, ठीक है. मेरे फादर साहब ने जयश्री टी एंड इंडस्ट्रीज़ में 35 साल काम किया है. BK बिरला जी के साथ वो काम करते थे. बाबू एक चीज़ बोलते थे हमेशा, व्यापार बिना लक्ष्मी के हो ही नहीं सकता है. अगर आपको व्यापार बड़ा करना है तो आपको लक्ष्मी चाहिए. दैट्स ऑल. थैंक यू सो मच गाइस.
Plus 100 to that, except the fact that मैंने नहीं बोला कि भाई पैसे मत रेस करो. मैंने एक बार भी नहीं बोला, किसी से भी पूछ लो. I think my few key learnings, that I don't know, I hope they're actionable is, one, I believe that pricing your product right is extremely, extremely important. There is one, problem where one is that Indian, culturally, we basically buy discounts. You know what is the highest selling item on Swiggy and Zomato? BOGO. Buy one, get one. Highest selling item on Swiggy and Zomato is buy one, get one free. उसमें जो आता है वो आ जाता है. खाना नहीं खरीद रहे हैं, discount खरीद रहे हैं. There's a cultural thing. Of course, as a country, we have lesser money. We have been trying to save money. Now, when I see, tech companies, non-tech companies, but, tech startups, new age companies, when they do deep discounting in their products, in their services, you lose the chance to improve them. You lose the chance to actually invest in them correctly. You lose the chance to have the right kind of, customers. So for me, pricing your product right, having your margins very, very clear, having the, creating value enough with your customer that you can sit with your prospect, you can sit with your customer, you can discuss what is the value that your product or your service is bringing to them, and then you can also tell them what is your margin and why you are taking it, because your customer's job, for example, when we deal with restaurants, we tell the restaurants when they ask us for discounts, we tell them, your job is to make money from your customer, my job is to make money from my customer, your job is not to make money from me, so don't reverse it. आप मुझे ये बताइए कि आपको क्या वैल्यू चाहिए इसमें से, and are we delivering that value or not? If not, of course, we'll be out of business. So my key learning is that if you price your product right, if you don't discount basis competition, if you make sure that you keep talking to your customer, keep asking them this question and keep responding to that, that brings a lot of prosperity to the business in the long term. Your bottom line, is always stronger just by design. And top line over time will take care of itself if you're growing.
So my two learning comes from the very basis of my business, which is IT services. एक तरफ customer है, एक तरफ employees हैं. So how do you basically create maximum value for both of them? So how do you maximize value creation for your customer in long term so that they stick to you, they continue to do business with you? And I think, and on the employee side, I think a lot of times we put a lot of emphasis on high quality talent and expensive talent. In my experience, I have seen very, very junior people excelling, if they are given the right mentorship, if they are guided well, and if they are given enough encouragement to do the right things. So I think that is what leadership is all about. So nothing wrong with IIT IIM, but IIT का तो selection process ही इतना अच्छा है कि वहाँ पे बच्चे अच्छे ही जाते हैं, तो end product भी अच्छा ही निकलेगा. तो challenge वहाँ है जहाँ पर आप इनपुट बहुत अमेजिंग नहीं लेते हो और आउटपुट बहुत अमेजिंग देते हो. सो आई थिंक दैट इज़ वन थिंग दैट वी टेक केयर ऑफ वेरी स्ट्रांगली इन INT, दैट कि हम कैसे साधारण लोगों को भी हम असाधारण बना सके आउट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, बिकॉज अगेन इट हैज़ कम आउट ऑफ कंपल्शन, राइट? आई मीन कैलकाटा, एज वी नो, इज when we started, we neither had clients nor had a lot of high-end tech people who work from here. So you are literally building a lake in a desert. So I think that is where we have learned from, that how do you make sure that your customers are extremely well taken care of and your employees are mentored and built up in something which you can be proud of. So these are two things I would say.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much. I think this has been an absolute honor. We're short of time now, but I think we've learned a ton. We've covered so much ground, and this panel is an embodiment of the fact that whatever strategy you choose for your business, irrespective of the kind of industry you're in, you could be in restaurant SaaS, you could be in IT services, you could be in insurance, you could choose to fundraise, you could choose to raise a little amount but not raise overall, you could choose to not raise at all, you could spend 25 years, 12 years, 14 years and build very successful companies if you keep at it with tangible output. So I think, can we have a huge round of applause for the three gentlemen on stage? Thank you so much for doing this.
Very well summarized, Jivraj. And now may I invite Mr. Anil Kariwala, Charter Member, TiE Kolkata, to felicitate our panelists and the moderator. So my learning from this session was that you may bring the money. Please, you, sir, they'll take it. So my 2 cents of learning from this conversation was the money may come from bootstrapping or from funding, but you have to ensure that the business is sustainable, has impact, and creates value for all the stakeholders. Do you all agree with it?
I'll begin with Ankit's words of wisdom.
लोग तालियां बजाने में कंजूसी नहीं कर रहे हैं. Special congratulations to them. That is a very well-deserving moderator, Jivraj. A very well-conducted conversation. Thank you so much. अब तो सेंटर स्टेज से भी इल्तजा आ गई है कि तालियां थोड़ी ज़्यादा बजाई जाएं. And here you have some path breakers who believe in creating value for all the stakeholders.